government's manner of keeping track of our safety record and our drivers. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration are the individuals that monitor that. It was established as part of the MAP 21 Act, which is moving ahead for progress in the 21st century. Wonderful new concept. It's, my opinion, still has a few flaws in it, but it is what it is, and it's how our vehicles and drivers are monitored by the government. The mission of the MAP 21 program is to improve highway safety through technology. One of the main devices they're leaning towards are ELDs or EOBRs. An ELD is an electronic logging device. Originally it was defined as a device that a driver could carry with him to keep his logs on. The difference between the ELD and the EOBR, which is what we are using, is the electronic onboard recording device actually hooks to the truck and records mileage, speed, and automatically posts locations. So there's a little differentiation there, but it's they're basically the same type devices. What we're hearing is that any driver operating a commercial motor vehicle will have to have one installed, and they haven't come out with a final date, but we're probably looking at sometime next year is our best guess. So that means whether you're driving a bus, a straight truck, a semi-truck, they're all going to have electronic logging devices in use.
How would you say, what portion of our fleet is on ELDs? Do we have that information?
Currently, all of our drivers that are contracted to Stevens, running out of headquarters, which is roughly 70 to 80 drivers currently, I'd say 95% of them probably have EOBRs installed. We have roughly 35 agent drivers that are currently running for headquarters as part of the PERM or committed fleet. I'm guessing they're probably up in about the 75% range. So right now we're still trying to get everybody up and on them. Clerically and clerically, it's a great time savings for us and the agents involved. Drivers no longer have to worry about submitting paper logs. They don't have to worry about sending in trip reports. The only thing that they're still required to send in to us is a copy of fuel receipts. The other thing with the fuel receipts are, for all the agents, those fuel receipts, if we don't receive them, they're actually costing you money. Your drivers are purchasing fuel at the pump and they're paying taxes at the time they purchase it. If we don't receive a fuel receipt, you're essentially going to be charged tax again on all those gallons. So it is to your benefit to supply us that information on a regular basis. CSA actually consists of 7 basic measurements that they check us on. Unsafe driving, which is actually moving violations. Any type of ticket that a driver receives goes against our unsafe driving score. Hours of service is logs. Any log violations noted at a roadside inspection reduce our CSA score. Driver fitness, that's how many push-ups the driver, well, no, it's not. driver fitness is essentially the driver has to have a valid driver's license with him, has to have his physical card, and it needs to be in the proper dates. So it's actually the driver's clerical needs to be out there on the road that are measured. Controlled substance and alcohol, of course, that's drug and alcohol violations. Vehicle maintenance. This is probably the easiest basic that we can improve. Vehicle maintenance means that you have a light bulb burned out, does his turn signal not work, anything that is wrong with the vehicle. In 90% of the items that they find wrong at roadside inspections, I'm sorry, but the driver, if he did a proper pre- and post-tip inspection, should have found it before they did and had it repaired. And it, it might be a 5-cent light bulb that needs to be replaced, and instead, if it's caught at the roadside inspection, it costs us CSA points. Hazardous materials is a category that we don't participate in because we don't haul hazmat. And of course, the crash indicator is how many accidents, DOT reportable accidents we've had. And those are the categories. Our current scorecard, if you'll notice the first two columns, driver fitness and hours of compliance, we've got red bars there, which means we are over the passing limit. If you notice the little red lines across, we need to get driver fitness down below an 80, and we need to get hours of service down below a 60. This has been kind of a continual situation for quite a while with us. We can't seem to get those scores down. And we're asking for all your help in doing that because, trust me, the insurance companies look at these scores and that causes us to pay higher premiums. So we need to get the scores down. Next. Now, are we terrible? Well, yeah, we're in bad shape, but when we check out the scores against the other major van lines, major and minor van lines, we don't look quite as bad. If you'll note on this, we're in the red, and we're leading the pack with log violations and driver fitness violations. But we're in close running with all the other categories, if not actually beating them. We have two major van lines who are actually failing 4 of these categories. And we have, out of the top 11 van lines, all 11 were failing at least 2 of the categories. So it's not as though, it's just us, it's everybody, but we're in, that's why I said at the beginning, I think there's some bugs in this system, because we're in a peer group that contains mainly freight haulers who are running routes. They're going over the same roads every day. They've got a fixed schedule that they keep to, so it makes them a lot easier to,
manage,
meet the requirements, or pass the requirements. And unfortunately, they've lumped us in there with them, and we're an irregular route carrier, and we don't have the luxury of having to go to the same place every day and just drive back, where it's pretty easy to schedule your hours, and essentially you know where you're going to be stopped at a weigh station for inspection and things of that nature. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Okay, from a sales perspective, we want you to have a good understanding of what we're up against and give you the opportunity to try to explain these limitations currently to our customers. And some of the things the electronic log does do, it enhances the professional van operator's time management skills. Before there was, shall we say, a little fudge factor in how logs could be kept. With the electronic logs, they're actually kept right down to the minute. There's new hours of service rules that have went into effect in the last year. They require the driver actually to sit down at the beginning of his trip and try to plan his entire trip out so that he knows where he's going to be, when he's going to be there, and how much time it's going to take to do all this to make sure that he can do it within the required hours of service. Another thing that it does, a lot of the drivers I talk to that are on it now, they actually feel that now they're forced to take 10 hours off, and it's improved their sleep habits and their eating habits. So essentially it's kind of making a healthier PVO out there for us. It also reduces the stress level. The drivers, again, they're planning their days in advance so they know what's going on, and it reduces that stress of making last-minute decisions and whatnot. I don't know, Jim, can you tell us how you felt it affected you once you got onto an EOBR?
Well, exactly that. It makes you take 10 hours off. It changes it around. A lot of us had bad habits. Sleeping little, getting up rolling. Yeah, this definitely changes a whole lot of things. But while at the same time, the driver has to be able to utilize all that time he has off, which means planning ahead and everything. And we're attempting to we're producing a video right now that it's going to help. We can get it out to you guys, hopefully help you get it to the drivers so they can explain their hours of service and everything a lot better, and just so they can help plan out their days. And
will that video go through like the day in the life of a driver?
Exactly.
Okay, good.
And
that'll be very helpful to our agents and agent drivers.
Yes.
Good.
Some of the things that we've had to adjust in operations and throughout the industry for you sales people too is we've had to adjust our load and delivery spreads to give us a little more time in order to be able to guarantee that we remain in regulatory compliance with the hours of service. And the other thing you all have to keep in mind is that all the van lines and all the movers in the country are up against these same rules. They have to comply just like we do, so it's not as though they're going to be able to promise anything that we aren't making this, they can't promise anything other than what we're promising. If they're being honest with the customer, let's put it that way. Pricing guidelines. The new pricing guidelines were published. They go into effect May 1st through September 30th. During the months, or from June 15th to July 15th, we will be pricing at prime rates during that period. There was not really any changes. No, I'm reading real fast trying to see if there was any changes. I think the only change was we upped the mandatory pick and holds to $34.99. I believe last year it was $24.99, and I think that was the only change that was made on that first page. The next page is actually the layout of the days required within spreads and the weight categories and all of that neat information. We extended the guaranteed service days on a couple categories there. We extended the $5,000 to $7,000 range by 1 day. That was a 4-day spread. Now we're saying a 5. Other than that, the spreads, I don't believe the actual spread dates next to the miles were changed at all. I think they're the same as they were last year.
As Greg said, this was issued last week. It was sent out to everybody, but I'll be more than happy to send it out again to everybody that's on the call, just so that you have it. Down here under that actually gives the pricing, it was cut off in this PowerPoint, so I do apologize for that. But again, it's been sent out in an email, and I'll resend it when we get off the call.
Now, I was told to point out that we did reduce the prime discount under some categories by 1%. The reason and the logic behind doing that is that we feel there's going to be a severe shortage of capacity this year throughout the market, and we believe that the market will bear that reduction in discount. California, my favorite state, and I apologize to all of you who might live there. California carb regulations. This is another reason that we're going to be possibly short on capacity this year. California regulations are attempting to eliminate actually air pollution. Under the regulations in California now, any tractor with a 2007 or older engine in it probably is not carb compliant unless you've made alterations to the engine, which, talking to people, is a very expensive procedure. So essentially, over the last 3 to 4 years, we've attempted to upgrade our fleet to newer compliant vehicles, and we've managed currently to, I believe we're up around 90 vehicles that are now California carb compliant, and this year is the last year that for every 9 compliant vehicles you have, you could still run 1 older vehicle that is not carb compliant. So that's that gave us another 8 or 9 vehicles that we now can run in California for this year. Next year, it's all off. Everything has to be newer than 2007 engine, and that's the way it's going to be. Again, this is something that is limiting or could limit our fleet size out there. We're planning on other venues. We've already planned for carb compliant, essentially rental units to be available for us both in Northern and Southern California, or the entrances to the state. So some drivers might possibly have to park their tractor there, grab one of the rental units, and use that to make their deliveries or pickups in California. We recommend that one of the things to do is try to get your bookings for California, whether they're going in or out, do them early so that operations has time to really look at the shipments and loads and figure out how we can get it covered. Try to use the full spread dates on any shipments going in and out of California, again, to give us flexibility to try to get the order covered and be able to meet your promises to your customer. This service is challenging not only to us. As a matter of fact, we're actually ahead of the game a little bit because we started buying newer tractors earlier than a lot of the other van lines, and a lot of the other van lines are in serious condition as far as capacity goes because of that. For 2014, our peak season summer capacity, we're looking currently, we're looking for agents to help us with our long haul capacity. We currently have roughly 35 agent drivers who are essentially dispatched by central operations here from headquarters. We project, we hope, we're attempting to get to at least 60 agent drivers who are running full-time for central operations.
Greg, if an agent has a driver that they want to commit to that, who do they need to contact?
They can either contact Ken Spencer, the Director of Central Operations, or Jim Welsh, Vice President of Operations. We need, and I might add that these drivers do not have to have a CARB-compliant tractor. I mean, they might not be able to go to California, but we can use them all over the rest of the country. So if you've got a qualified piece of equipment and a qualified driver willing to run long haul, it's an opportunity for you. Headquarters hauling capacity, currently we're approximately 80 drivers. We're looking to add another 20, so it'll bring us up to a total fleet capacity between the two. We're looking for to have 160 drivers available. Jim, why don't you tell them about your proactive recruiting?
Well, right now we're running quite a few different programs trying to get these drivers into us. We got a mobile app that we do. They can go right off their phone or mobile device, and it'll come directly to me. Google and social media, we're using that, but the big one we're using is truckdrivingjobsus.com. And currently, I think I got, in the past 2 months, I think it's about 70 job applications coming through on that. We're hitting it really hard on the weekends with that, and because that's where we figured was best for us to try to concentrate that. But it's working really good for us so far. So we're hoping on meeting that goal. That's for sure. But that's if you agents have any drivers out there, like he says, please send them our way. We got some drivers. I got some drivers that are coming to me off this truck driving jobs. It's just they just want to kind of work local or regional. So if you have any need for that, feel free to send me an email or something.
And Jim, are we, when we get that information that a driver just wants to drive regionally or locally, we're passing that on to our agents, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So that's good. So we are being proactive in that approach, but vice versa. You know, if you guys have a driver that wants to go full in with long haul and committed to the summer, then, you know, let us know.
Definitely.
And I'd like to just say, having done this before, any agent who, if you have a truck available and need a driver, I recommend that you send Jim Van Haren an email, tell him what kind of vehicle you have available, whether or not you're willing to sell it to an owner-operator or lease purchase it to an owner-operator. You know, give him some details of what you have available, what you want to do with that unit, and if you know, if we find someone that fits the bill, I'm sure Jim will get the information back to you.
How do these numbers compare to last year, Greg?
In actuality, we're almost exactly where we were last year at this point. Now, last year, I was doing the recruiting, and I fell short. I was only able to get the headquarters fleet to 87 drivers is where I peaked. So we could have used at least another 13 drivers, although we didn't really have to embargo it all. We could have hauled more if we had the drivers.
We're throwing a lot more resources at it this year, obviously.
Absolutely.
So we're taking more action and trying to do more things, to recruit. And we definitely didn't have this website,
Nope.
mobile app. We're taking some major steps to try and meet those goals.
And also, if you are in need of drivers, even, hourly drivers, I would suggest you explain that in an email, send it to Jim, and we'll see if we can help you out. Now, we're already planning that we're going to have capacity issues this summer. We've got some alternative transportation concepts that we use. Crate and freight, which we've used heavily in the past. Essentially, we found it's really a loser when it comes to the revenue distribution and the money, and we're going to attempt to limit our crate and freight as much as we can. What we've done is we've been in contact with Old Dominion Freight Lines. They're one of the larger freight lines in the country. They have trailers now that are equipped to secure household goods within them. They have decking bars built into the trailers, which they also have basically prefabricated bulkheads built that we can use to essentially load household goods on the trailer, block it off from everything else that's on the trailer, and seal that portion of the trailer so that we know that your customers' goods won't be, won't be handled between origin and destination. They've got two programs. One program that we're intending to use currently is the agent load and unload. Basically what will happen is Old Dominion will bring in the trailer, the origin agent or booking agent, if the case may be, will go out and actually load that trailer and then seal it off and send it on its merry way. And when it gets to destination, the destination agent will send a crew to the residence. They'll open up the trailer and deliver the goods into the residence. They also have a program where the customer loads and unloads their own trailer. This is a self-move. Essentially, the booking agent will book the move, arrange for a trailer to be spotted at the customer's residence, and the customer puts a lot of sweat equity into it and does their own loading and their own delivery at destination. This program is not yet implemented by us. We're still discussing it to find out where we're going to go with that.
Is it something that we will know what we're going to do by May 1st?
Yeah. Right now, we will have a decision whether or not we're going to offer this service prior to the peak season. Some of the other things we've got available to the agents to increase our capacity is we're again running this year a tractor purchase program. Essentially, if the agent goes out, locates a CARB compliant tractor, meaning something with a 2007 engine or newer, and arranges for their own financing, Stevens Van Lines will implement a loan of $10,000 for the agent to use towards their down payment on the equipment. At the end of, excuse me, there's hauling requirements involved in this, but if you meet the hauling numbers established by us for 1 year from the date the tractor's qualified with us, the $10,000 loan will be forgiven. So essentially, it's an agent's ability here to pick up $10,000 towards purchasing a new tractor. And I'm going to say that you should probably talk to Ken Spencer or Jim Wells. There we go. I forgot his name. And they'll be happy to discuss all the points of the program. We also are going to have an agent hauling incentive program, which is in development right now, and it'll be out before the peak season, before May 1st for all of you. Not quite sure how they're going to structure it, whether it's going to be possibly an additional percentage of line haul if you dedicate trucks to us during the peak season. You know, I'm not part of the committee forming that, so I can't really talk to it much.
It'll be announced, so obviously prior to peak season.
Before we go to the next slide, I just want to recap the salespeople. You know, we're working under new regulations, new scrutiny by the FMCSA and our CSA scores. The hour of service regs have changed slightly, and these are all things that we only have so much control over. So it behooves you to have at least a fundamental working knowledge of what our drivers are up against. We need, when you're booking, try to use the entire, explain to the customer that our drivers are regulated by the government as to how many hours they can work, how many hours they can drive each day. And any type of a flat tire could cause a guy to be a day late without, you know, if he's out in the middle of the desert someplace, gets a flat tire, he might lose 2 to 3 hours waiting for someone to come out and repair the tire, which throws his whole schedule off for the rest of the week. Excuse me. And again, all the van lines are under the same constraints. So if one, you know, you can't stop a van line for another salesperson from coming in and basically lying to the customers. But I think if you explain to the customers what we're up against, you know, you'll have more understanding up front of why we need such a long spread for loading or for delivering or whichever the case may be.
And to use it as leverage, as a selling point to say, hey, we are committed to keeping the roads safe, keeping, you know, the drivers safe, and we're following the rules and being an honest company that we are. I mean, it's a great selling tool.
Yeah, I don't think you want to leave the customer in a situation where they're totally uninformed. Mm-hmm. All it's going to do is, you know, in the event that there's a delay of any kind, it's just going to cause added frustration on the part of the customer. I really, personally, I believe if you're going to be honest with them up front, it gives you more credibility when something does happen and we can't meet certain date requirements or whatever. Claims. Claims is the other hard discussion. Salespeople, you know, you must teach your customers when you're talking to them the importance of the inventory, the use of the high-value inventory. You know, it's the inventory. A lot of customers are offended by it when we go through and we accurately inventory their furniture, because all of a sudden all those little nicks, scrapes, and dents that were hiding from them over all these years are brought to light, and they feel our van operator might be inventorying the conditions a little too stringently. But you need to discuss with them the fact that, you know, we're trying to take an accurate picture, not necessarily a picture, a written picture of what we're observing, and that they need to tag along so that they can see the damage as it's being written up. High value inventory, very important, and probably one of the things that kind of gets glossed over a lot in some cases during the sales process. High value inventory is required on anything that's, you know, anything that's highly valuable. Can you tell me what the dollar cutoff is? I forgot.
$100 per pound.
There we go. Okay. So, you know, you're looking at coin collections and jewelry and some electronics and, you know, fur coats and all types of items that they need to be on that high value inventory if they're worth more than $100 per pound. Otherwise, they're not going to get that high value coverage. If they file a claim for those items, they're not going to get anywhere near what they would be anticipating. So we really need to cover that with them. We need to talk to the fact that they need to be there at origin and destination. At origin to observe the inventory process, at destination to observe the items coming off the truck and to check them off, make sure there's no damage to the items. So we need to push all that out. Now, talking COD shipments in this case mainly. I'm not saying it doesn't apply to national account or government shipments, but specifically on COD shipments, all damage must be noted on the day of delivery. That's why it's important that you explain to the customer that they need to be there at destination. They need to be vigilant when they're unloading the truck to check off the items, to make sure they got all of their items, and to note any damage to the items. The other issue that we're having is how long does a customer have to file a claim? We had a convention in Vegas a few months ago, and the question was asked of the audience, and we received a myriad of answers, anywhere from 30 days to 90 days to 9 months. A COD customer has 9 months to file a claim, but that claim can only be filed on items that were noted at delivery, either being missing or that there was damage on the items. The one exception is on carrier-packed boxes. If there are items broke in the box, that's concealed damage, and that doesn't have to be reported on the day of delivery or at the point of delivery. Need to advise your customers to protect themselves, to, you know, as they're checking the inventory off, if they spot damage that wasn't there when it loaded on the truck, they need to note it on the right-hand side. There's an exception field there. They need to list that the damage is that the item is damaged, and that paperwork is essentially their report of the damage, even though they'll be required to file an actual claim form. Anything? Did I miss anything there?
Yep.
All right. Okay. One of the other hard discussions to have, and again, we're talking mainly in this instance, national account shipments, are the goodwill settlements. You know, why do they exist? Well, we realize that you agents all spend a lot of time and effort to establish good relationships with your accounts, and we know that you don't always want to risk, you know,
Upsetting the customer.
there we go, upsetting your national account. So the goodwill settlements are actually a relationship item. In the event that something transpires where we have the claims department has a customer insisting that, you know, they want more for the damage, or if it's an inconvenience claim, they want more money for hotels, meals, whatever their inconvenience, we will, Stevens Van Lines, will be contacting you back direct. And it's, at that point, a negotiated settlement between you, us, and your customer. We're not automatically going to say no. We realize that, you know, your livelihood depends on this account, and we want to do what you feel is fair, what we feel is fair, and hopefully what the customer feels fair. So we want you to understand that these goodwill settlements might possibly cost you a little bit in the settlement to keep the account happy, or we might say, well, yes, that was our fault, we feel that's reasonable, and we might make the goodwill settlement payment, should I say. And of course, if you say no, then the answer is no. We won't make any adjustments to it. So this is something that we'll work with you on, and hopefully we can reach a favorable conclusion to the situation.
One important thing with the goodwill thing, we want you to make sure you don't negotiate until you deal with headquarters first and foremost. Okay?
Yeah.
So that we're all on the same page with that.
Yeah, don't make any promises we can't keep.
Right. If anybody has any questions at this time on anything that we covered, if you just want to put it in the questions box. We haven't had any yet, so wait about a minute to see if we have any. And if anything does come up, you know, something that you're like, oh, what's this? You can always get in touch with any one of us, and we'll be sure to get that answered for you. What are the moving apps called for recruiting? Do you know what the mobile app is?
I don't know the name of the mobile app. The main one I keep getting them from is that truckdrivingjobs.us.com.
There's enough. You have it on your phone?
What's that?
The app? We'll get that over to you. At the end. We don't have it. Do drivers need physical card even after attached to license?
Yes.
Yes, they do until next, well, that law was supposed to have changed in February of this year, where all drivers are supposed to register their physicals with the state, and the fact that they have a current physical would show up on their, basically show up on the computer when a police officer pulls them over. Some states could not manage to comply with that law at this point, so they set it aside at least for another year. So we're looking at February. Probably next year we'll be seeing if they can comply by then.
We had another comment that they would like the video mentioned. That video actually is not produced yet. We're in the process of producing it. So once it is made, we will go back and, you know, it'll be published to all of our agents.
Any plans to change the ELBR company away from XRS anytime soon? I'm going to say the flat answer is no at this point. I will tell you that XRS is developed. They've already got a new version of it that we are testing at this point. There's still a few areas. We're kind of the beta tester for it. It's projected to be essentially the same cost as what we're paying now, and it's a lot more user-friendly, and it has a lot more capabilities than what the version is that we're currently using with the agents. We have, I think we have, right now, we have 15 of our drivers who have the new version. And like I said, it's a beta test, but a lot more flexibility to it, and it does a lot more for us. So until we can see that final product, you know, if you have particular concerns with the XRS system, or if you have knowledge of another product that you feel is superior to it, you know, you can feel free to send me an email or call me. And I'm not saying that we won't switch, but until something comes up that fits our needs better, you know, I'm willing to look at whatever.
Another question, can you make a pamphlet explaining hours of service and delivery spread to give to customer?
I don't see why we shouldn't be able to come up with something. I will make a note, talk to the marketing department about it.
Great suggestion.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Are we looking to have an APU rate more than 13% this year?
I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I do not know what they have planned.
All right, just a couple upcoming events that we have. Next week is the sales chat calls, April 1st and 2nd, that Roger puts on, and everybody is designated into a group there. Also, we have our sales conference coming up April 10th and 11th, and that's going to be in Frankenmuth, Michigan, which is right down the road from headquarters. So if you haven't signed up for that.
And we hope all the snow's melted by then.
Yeah. If you haven't signed up for it, there's still time. One great benefit of having the Eastern Sales Conference right around headquarters is that you can come and visit everybody that you work with on a daily basis. So we're looking forward to great participation in that. And also, the last thing is our next webinar is going to be April 17th, which is actually a Thursday. Normally they're on Wednesdays, but next month it will be on Thursday, April 17th at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So again, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you Greg and Jim for all the great information. Thanks, guys.